Okay, today we're going to look at the budget template here. Hopefully this can be a useful tool for you in order to keep track of expenses and also set up set up a budget so that you can stay within that and have some greater financial freedom that way. And also continue to steward the gifts God has given you well. So we start over here on the projected income and cost. This is the first page, and it kind of shows you basically input your projected income. For some of you, this will be easier than others. If you're salaried, it's fairly straightforward and simple. If you're week to week, it's a little bit more difficult, but try to get kind of an average. Hopefully you have a past history that you could use. So let's say your weekly pay is $500. If you enter that in, it automatically will factor it, multiply it by your factor of 52 weeks in a year, and it shows your total yearly income. Now this is your net income. Your gross income, that would be the income that is before taxes, before all the other deductions. So perhaps that's around 600, let's say. Multiplied by 52 equals 31,200. So it obviously will be different amounts. This is just an example. So you can put in other categories, side jobs, something like that. You know, net income is 100 times 26. Maybe it's only every other week that you do a side job, and then that can come in. You can also put in other income types in there. Take those out for now, and those are these are basically a sum or a product of this cell and this cell. So, you know, the weekly pay times the factor equals the yearly. These will all total yearly net income. Then it divides it again by 12 to give you your total monthly net income, projected obviously monthly net income. So, and here's your total monthly gross income, same kind of thing. Then you go through and you set out based on that, you know, okay, 10% of your gross income would be what you tithe. So you take 10% of this total monthly gross income, so it'd be $260 rather. $260 factor to multiply. Now this would be 52 perhaps, or 12 perhaps, if you're going to do your tithe monthly. I have it set up here bi-weekly, so you can figure out that amount, you know, 3,100 or 31,000 divided by 26 pay periods, and that would give you the amount that you need to take 10% off for your tithe. Anyways, you can figure that out. You put the expense here, factor to multiply by it, and that would be the annual cost. So let's say it was $260, and the annual cost of tithe would be here. You can put your sponsor child in there if you have one, extra missionary support or Grow for God campaign, other type of building things in there. This breaks it down, that amount, to a monthly cost. This monthly cost then, budget number here, will translate to your month-to-month sheet that you work on, and I'll show you that in a moment. So same thing, you go through all of these kind of different categories. This would be giving, this one is more housing, this is groceries, this is, you know, vehicle, automotive, transportation, your clothing category, same kind of thing, your dates or spending money, your vacation or you know, trips, health and hygiene, through some life insurance there. Perhaps you have other insurance you can simply insert to make more columns if you like. This is the various category. That is the hardest category, but there's got to be some kind of catch-all to catch the random things that you will purchase or do that don't fit the other categories. An education or an education payment, if you're paying back, you know, kind of budget in how much is your payments, debt reduction there. Family gifts as well. These are gifts. We decided it was helpful to differentiate between gifts to our family, Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, etc., and gifts to others. So at times you want to just be generous to others, and this is kind of a planning for that. And then it totals all those things into a forecasted total annual expense, and your amount over net income. So that subtracts your net income from your expenses, or subtracts your expenses from your income. And if this number is in the red, that means you have to go back and rebudget because you're over. If it's in the black like this, that's a good sign. That means you're making more than you're spending. And this gives you then your forecasted monthly expense. So that helps. Now let's go to how it plugs in. So let's go to January. This is where you actually do the tracking and the budget planning. So in here we have those different categories. You see up here we have giving, all there. In January, this is our giving category, and so you could put your sponsor child in here, or your Grow for God campaign, or offerings. Tithes is like the 10%. Offerings is above and beyond that. So, giving to a sponsor child is great, but that's not your tithe. The tithe is the 10% that goes to the work that God is doing through your local church. Then you can record your payment method. So it's kind of like expense, details, payment method. You can keep track of payment method if you want, debit, credit, etc. Maybe direct giving, and it'll keep track there. You've got some verses there to help keep track spiritually, to remind yourself each time you look at this. Over here we have the title, or the totals then. So if you say your e-tithe is $115, keep track of that. Well, then all of a sudden it totals, here's your $230 you've spent. You've budgeted for $563, and this is the difference then remaining that month. So if we go back to projected income and costs, when you put in an expense here in your projected, and you kind of set a budget, this monthly total gets plugged in right here in every month's worksheet. So you'll see in February, same thing, there's that budget total. So if you adjust it in projected income and costs, in these different building blocks, you could say, it goes into each month. So it keeps track there for you then how you're doing. Same thing with housing. There's a couple of presets here. You can erase those if you want, and set them to other brands or names. Kind of the order is by priority. Here's tithes, giving, the first fruits. Then housing, you kind of need that to live. Groceries, kind of need food to live. Then transportation is kind of a necessity. Clothes are a necessity. Spending money, I think, is a big necessity. Spending money for dates and stuff, probably over vacation. We just separated those two just because we found it was too easy not to keep track of, or to spend all our vacation money at once and then have no money for dates and other things throughout the year. Then health and hygiene, that is actually very important too. Various goes here. Education, these aren't necessarily as ordered. The first two or three are the most important. Education, family gifts, gifts to others, same kind of thing. So you put the amount here. So let's say you spend, $50. Always enter them as negative amounts. $50 on gift card, Dad, and that was paid with MasterCard or Visa or whatever you want to do, debit, right? And then you can keep track of that way. That puts it right in here. All these totals get totaled into this total expense. So if you see it here, I click, all these ones are totaled together right here. And then it also will track all the total budgeted, so it grabs all those budgeted numbers from there, and then it shows the difference. So this is your monthly difference. So when you put in all your expenses at the end of the month, hopefully the difference is that you're plus, right? Like this, that it's 283, and not that it's the expense here, not that it's negative, because that means you're losing that month. Down here we have income. So this is your net income here. Direct deposit you can put in. Those will be pretty regular probably if you're a salaried job again. If you're not, you might be getting checks. So you can put the checks in there. Put the check amount. So $1,500. Details, work deposited May 21st. There you go. That totals your net income here in checks, net income in direct deposit, net income in cash. and then it puts it over here into total net income. Minuses the total expenses for the month, and there's your difference. So up here you have your difference of your budgeted expenses. Down here you have your difference of how much you actually brought in and how much you actually spent that month. Then we have this column, which is your gross income. So you would also write, let's say, $1,800 for work coming in, because that's the before taxes, before deductions. That amount totals here from all the different things. Then it goes to this column here where the total gross income is multiplied by 10%. It shows then the tithe amount. This is the amount that you should be tithing that month. Then it takes this tithe total. So this number here is calculated based on those numbers you entered in this column right here, only up to tithe. So in the tithing area, it totals those numbers, brings them down here, and then it shows the difference. So it shows if you're still owing tithe. So if you're like on a pre-authorized debit for a tithe, this will show you then what you're still owing in that regard. So basically each month is the exact same sheet. You just go from month to month and you'll see the exact same sheet. It kind of pops up on different spots. If you ever want to change these sheets, change one of them and then just Control A, copy everything, copy it with Control C, and then paste in the other ones. The only thing you have to pay attention to is that those projected income and costs automatically populate these cells. You can see it's taking that from projected income and cost. And so if you adjust something here, it might throw that off. There's one last tab I'll show you, which is the year-to-date tab. The year-to-date will take all of the income and expenses from the various, scroll up here, from the various categories and plug them into one spot so you can quickly see, okay, what has our housing average been or our housing costs been this year? What have we budgeted for the year? See, this is the budgeted amount. How are we doing from the year-to-date perspective for our expenses? Because sometimes you'll perhaps pay for your car insurance in January, but then in January you pay, let's say, $2,500 for car insurance, but then you don't pay anything for all the rest of the months, right? So then you'll be able to quickly see, okay, we're meeting our budget, we're exceeding, etc. So that kind of shows you how that works. I'm gonna delete that. I'm not sure what that's about. Oh, there we go. And so that is a quick overview of the budget worksheet, and hopefully that's useful for you.